Hi, thanks for joining us for the Family Plots, Gardening in the Mid-South. I'm Chris Cooper. Bulbs can beautify any spring garden, but you need to think ahead and plant in the fall. Today we'll show you how. Also, a few months ago we built a hydroponic system. We're going to see how it's doing and change the nutrient solution. That's just ahead on the Family Plots, Gardening in the Mid-South.
Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Hi, welcome to the Family Plots. I'm Chris Cooper. Joining me today is Lee Salmons. Lee is a UT Extension agent in Hardeman County, and Scott Dekarsky will be joining us later to change out the nutrients in our hydroponic system. All right, Mr. Lee.
Hi, Chris. This is fall season, time we want to be thinking about planting our spring bulbs.
Okay, so what do we need to do to prepare our beds for those bulbs?
If you've got a bed, you want to loosen up, till it some, so that it'd be easier to plant the bulbs. There are several different ways that you can plant the bulbs with several different tools.
Okay.
All of them work better if the ground has been tilled or loosened.
Okay. Right. Now, what are some of the tools that we need to use?
Today, we have several different tools that you can use. We have a hand trowel if the soil is loose that you can pry out the soil and do it. A lot of stores sell this type of bulb planter that was old-fashioned from Sandpoint. It's very hard to dig a hole if you don't have really loose soil. So if you have 3 or 4 bulbs, that might be fine. If you're planting 100 to 200 bulbs, that's pretty hard work.
It's going to be hard.
Hard work.
Okay.
Other tool we have today is one that has a drill that goes onto your regular portable drill that you can use in the yard, and that's very easy to drill a hole in loose soil.
Okay, I've actually used that before.
Everybody uses this.
Okay. All right. Now, what kind of bulbs will you be planting for us today?
We're going to be planting some tulip bulbs today, and we also have some narcissus that we can, daffodils that we can plant today. Okay.
Now, when is the best time to plant
those? Best time to plant is in late November and 1st of December. Okay. You want the soil temperature to draw down to about 50 degrees.
Okay.
And usually that's when the leaves have already turned and we're starting fall and past peak coloring season.
All right. So you want to demonstrate to us how you put the bulbs in the ground?
Tulip bulb has a top that we want to make sure that that's up. Okay. And the roots on the bottom. We recently planted in the springtime. Fall is because the roots are growing during the wintertime to grow. Okay, we want to plant them. Here we had dug a hole. We're planting a multiple group of tulips so that we'll have a nice cluster in our landscape. It just won't be one individual planted in a row.
Now, how deep do we need to plant those?
You want them about 5 inches deep
5 inches,
when you plant them. Okay, and once you have planted the tulips, you want to make sure that you cover the soil back over and make sure that you water it well.
Okay. So we don't have to add, any
You don't have to add any nutrients. Most of our tulips or bulbs are not heavy feeders. Okay. So if you haven't done a soil test, then you can do that. Make sure where your nutrient level is.
Okay. All right. So next you demonstrate using the drill?
Yes, we can use the drill. And what that does is just augers down into the soil, makes a nice hole for you, and it comes out. And then you have a nice hole to plant your daffodil bulb in this right depth. And just cover it over. So it makes it real easy to plant.
Okay. Now, how deep was that?
That was about 5 inches deep.
5 inches deep.
5 inches deep.
Gotcha.
So that's the way you would plant them in the fall, but it makes it a lot easier if the soil is tilled up.
Sure.
With this type of planter, you can plant in soil that has not been tilled. Okay. You can go down into your yard in a hard bed. So if you're wanting to naturalize a lot of bulbs, then this would be the tool that you'd want to use.
Okay. All right. So if you just want to use a plain old trowel, though,
you want to take a tiller or a shovel and loosen it up.
Just loosen it up. We still want to loosen up, right? So we can get the bulbs in there.
Soil loose, because this will not cut through hard soil unless the bed's been loosened up.
Okay. And you just demonstrate that for us, though, just using that since we have it tilled up.
If the soil is loose, then what you want to do is twist and turn. It'll pull all the soil out.
I got you. Right.
And then you have a nice hole to put it in. And this is about 5 inches deep, so that's what you want to plant it. Then you just knock your soil back out.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that being pretty tough if the ground is not
if the ground's not loose, then this is really a hard tool to use.
Okay.
All right.
Now, can you explain to us about actually storing those bulbs, though? What's the best way to do that?
Right. You may be purchasing the bulbs earlier
Sure.
Than 1st of November. So you want to put the bulbs in some type of refrigeration, about like your refrigerator, 38 to 50 degrees, to keep them cool for about 8 weeks before you plant the tulips. Make sure that you don't have any type of fruit in there, because the ethylene gas will kill the flower bud in the tulip bulbs.
Okay.
On that.
All right. So once you do that, then
you're good to go.
Pull them out and you're good to go.
Pull them out and good to go. And soil's cold, plant them and forget about them.
Okay. So the bulbs have to have some type of chilling requirement.
They have to have chilling requirements to be able to bloom properly.
All right.
If you don't do that and then we have a warm winter, then they don't bloom well.
Okay. Well, Lee, we appreciate that demonstration with the bulbs.
Glad to do it.
Right, thank you much. There are a number of gardening events going on in the next couple of weeks. Here are just a few that might interest you. Okay, Scott, what do we need to do to change out the nutrients in our hydroponic system?
Man, first off, we're going to need to cut power to the tote and then drain out the existing nutrient solution so we can go ahead and rinse out the tote and get it ready for a fresh nutrient solution.
Okay, well, I will turn the power off.
Cool,
then.
awesome.
We can get started. There you go.
Awesome. Now we just turn the drain and let it start to feed by gravity.
All right.
All right, now we have the tote inverted just to get that last small amount of water out of the tote.
Okay. It's slowly coming on out.
Yep. Just about done.
Almost. How's it looking there?
All right, looking like it's about done. All right, cool. And that is our sign that we're good to go.
All right.
Let's get this out of here.
Okay.
All right, and Chris, if you want to remove the blocks over there.
I can do that. Okay.
Cool, and let's go ahead and scoot this back just a little bit so we have somewhere to.
Just tell me when.
Cool. Let's go back this way. All right, that looks good.
Okay.
All right, now we're going to do our nutrients.
All right.
We're going to start with a simple 3-part nutrient. We have a grow, a micro, and a bloom. The nutrient formula that we're using for this tote is a 3-part nutrient formula. Typically, they're in 1, 2, 3, and 4-part formulas. Synthetics are more commonly a 1-part or a 3-part.
All right.
And in this 3-part, we have a grow, a micro, and a bloom, and these are going to be our base nutrients. So these are going to have all the essential macro and micro elements that any kind of plants are going to need.
Okay. So it's good for plant growth.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yeah. And on the back, you can see we have a feeding guide for the various stages of the plant's life, all the way from cutting and seedling, all the way down to blooming and ripening.
Okay.
We're going to use these cups to measure out our individual amounts, starting with the grow. So right now these plants are at blooming and ripening. Okay. So we're going to use a ratio of 1 part grow to 2 part micro to 3 parts of the bloom.
Okay.
And this is read out as 1 milliliter per gallon of water. So since we're working with 10 gallons of water, we're going to measure out 10 milliliters of your grow first. It's good to shake these nutrients beforehand.
Okay. It's good to have these little cups here as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very handy. And you can also use these smaller pipettes for smaller amounts of nutrients, but that just takes a little bit too much time.
Okay. Okay.
So we see on the side here, we have milliliters. It might be kind of hard for you guys to see that. What we're going to do, we're going to set this flat on the surface of the table, and we're just going to fill to 10 milliliters right there.
Right.
That's going to be our grow, and we'll go ahead and do the other 3 parts as well. The micro.
Shake it up.
Yep. Micro likes to be shaken just a little bit more than the others just because it's a little bit thicker.
Okay.
Since we're doing 2 milliliters per micro per gallon of water, we're going to do 20 mils altogether. Again, flat on the surface.
Wow, that is a lot thicker.
Yep. Ooh. We'll just hold it like this.
All right, that's 20.
Yep.
Okay.
And lastly, the bloom. And this gets the most, so we're going to do 30 mils, which is essentially going to fill the cup completely up. All right.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's our 3-part nutrient. And before we mix these nutrients, what we're going to want to do is pH our water. Back here, we have our pH test kit, just a real simple liquid solution with a color grade scale, letting you know if your pH is more of a base or more of an acidic pH. And typically for hydroponics, we're going to be looking for anywhere between 5.8 to 6.2. And what this allows us to do is to have maximum availability of all nutrients to the plant.
Gotcha.
Cool.
Okay.
A small amount of water, not a whole lot's needed. As far as the indication solution, just a few
Just a couple
drops.
of drops? Okay.
Yep, nothing too crazy. All right.
And shake it up. All right.
I'm gonna shake it up. As you can see, it's around 6.0 to 6.5.
Okay.
So we're gonna be good to go on this.
Good.
So we're not gonna have to add any pH down or pH up to the
Okay.
solution.
Good.
So we're gonna mix the micro first, just because that's kind of the steps you take. And this is a 3 milliliter pipette. So we're gonna do 3 mils at a time of the micro. Cool. Added 6, and we're gonna do 2 more because we're working with 4 gallons of water. All right. And that's it for that one. Okay. And you can go ahead and pour that in there.
In this one?
Yes, in the 6
In
gallon
this one,
bucket.
6. Okay,
Yeah.
I got you. I'm gonna stir that. Right?
Yeah. It's important to really stir these nutrients before you start mixing more. Cool, if you want to stir that one?
Yeah, let me do that.
Cool. Another safe practice to use when mixing hydroponic nutrients is to mix one at a time so you don't cross-contaminate the nutrients. Okay. And also, if you're using small pipettes or something like that, make sure you use a fresh pipette for each one of the nutrients.
Good deal.
Cool. Since we're doing 1 mil of grow per gallon of water, we're going to start with 3. Chris, do you want to take the stick and start stirring that one for me?
I could do that.
Cool. And then the 1. All right, that's our grow for that one. And this is for the second bucket.
Okay.
All right, and the last one is 3 mils per gallon. So I'm going to do this 3 times. And
That's that one.
let's do 1 more. All right. And then the bloom for the larger.
Okay. All right.
All right, cool. And our buckets of nutrient solution are good to go.
Okay.
So all we got to do is scoot this back towards us.
All right. Put this back
And then we will fill it up. Yep. All right. There we go.
There it is. There we got it.
All right, and while we have this lifted up, we're going to go ahead and do an inspection of the plants, make sure that everything's nice. And as you can see, the roots are a little bit discolored, but that's as to be expected with darker synthetic nutrients.
It's a mat of roots down there, though.
It is.
Goodness.
Nice and healthy.
Right.
All right, so what we're going to do now is fill it. So I'm going to need you to hold the top.
I can.
And then I will grab these buckets. Slowly pouring.
Slow. All right.
Make sure
So
we
far,
get
so good.
every last bit out of there. All right, cool.
Okay. All right.
All right, and that is our nutrient solution changed. All right, we set the top down. All right, matter of fact, before we do that, why don't you plug it in so we can make sure that everything's spraying right.
All right, we have power.
Awesome.
So how's it look?
It looks like everything's working well. We always want to check the sprayers because the salt buildup in organic material from the plants, they tend to clog them.
Sure.
But that's why we have a sediment bag over the pump.
All right.
But you always want to make sure, because if a pump dies, then you'll have a dry spot in the root zone, and that'll lead to root rot.
And we definitely don't want that.
Not at all.
Well, Scott, look, man, we definitely appreciate that demonstration on changing out those nutrients, all right?
Yeah, no problem, man.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
If you see where I'm standing right now, 5 years ago, this was all Bermuda grass from back from here to the transformer. And just one little small piece of zoysia grass was planted by that transformer there. And look right now, you see all over here now, from here, from the transformer back to main on, you have zoysia grass. So see right now, you see right in here, you got a lot of, little Bermuda grass, but you got a lot of zoysia grass that start taking over right here now. So if you 5 or 6 years from now, all this 5 or 6 more years from now, all this probably gonna be zoysia grass. So if you have a Bermuda grass lawn and you want to get zoysia grass in there, that put you a small little piece down there all through your little Bermuda grass, and probably in 5 or 6 years from now, you will start seeing the zoysia grass take over your Bermuda grass. And why that happened? Because zoysia grass is a real thick grass, and it can move into Bermuda grass very slow now. You're not gonna do it overnight now. You're gonna take some time. You might look at 5 or 6 years, or maybe a little longer than that, depending on how kind of soil you have. In over a period of time, you have you a new lawn, a zoysia lawn, a thick grass in there, blend in with your Bermuda grass.
Oftentimes on the show, you hear us talk about the importance of soil testing. And soil testing serves a lot of purposes. One, it keeps us from over-fertilizing, and it also helps us get the plant the nutrients that it needs. So, and the way to do this is real simple. You just want to go about 6 inches, 6 to 8 inches down, and you always collect a little bit, and then hit another spot right here, another 6 inches, and maybe one more spot here in this bed. And then you mix all that soil up with your hands. To be a gardener now, you're gonna get your hands dirty. And then of course, you take that and you put this into the soil test box. And of course, fold this, and now this is ready to go to the soils lab to be tested and help you grow even better plants.
All right, here's our Q&A session. Scott, you jump in there and help us out if we get in any trouble, okay?
Absolutely.
All right, here's our first viewer email with a picture. Can you identify this flying insect? And this is from Paul, as you can see there on the screen. Mr. Paul, this would be a parasitoid wasp, all right? They're common in the garden league, as you well know. The thing about them is this: they have a unique shaped abdomen,
Right.
okay, which is how you can identify them as a parasitoid wasp. And of course, they actually lay eggs either on or within their host. So actually beneficial, right?
That's correct.
Don't you think so?
They're great to have in the garden.
Yeah. And if you want to have them in your garden, guess what you have to do? Not spray insecticides.
Correct.
Right. Because if you spray the insecticides, then the parasitoid wasp is not going to be there. But if you have, some good flowers there, some nice flowers, some good blooms or whatever, they'll come and they'll help you out in the garden.
They're a good insect.
All right. So, Mr. Paul, there you have it. Parasitoid wasp is what that is. It's our friend in the garden. All right, here's our next viewer email. Can you treat the soil after a fungus killed a bunch of tomatoes so it could be used next year? And this is from Captain Pegs 07 via YouTube. All right, so he wants to know if you can treat the soil after a fungus has killed the tomato. So what do you think about that?
Well, I want to get the tomato plants out of the garden.
Okay.
On that. The first thing, remove the source of the fungus.
Okay.
Then rotate into a different area of the garden. You may not be able to totally get all the fungus out of that soil, so you want to rotate and put your tomatoes in a different areas of the soil next year.
Okay. And yeah, that's definitely what I would recommend as well. Anything?
No, same thing right here,
okay.
man.
Yeah, I'll definitely get them out of there. Yeah, rotation is something that you can do. If those tomatoes have a fungus, they're going to have fungal spores, right? So you
Correct.
practice good sanitation too.
Right.
You know, I'll pick up some of those diseased leaves and get them, you know, get those out of there.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, you know, put them in the compost pile. I actually just put those in a bag and put those in the trash.
Right.
You know. Something else I thought about too, Lee, maybe soil solarization could be an option as well, right? You could lay out some plastic in the summertime and, you know, maybe heat that soil up a little bit and possibly.
Could be possible. It needs to be about 5 weeks and temperature get up to 90 to 120 degrees to sterilize the soil.
Right, which would be something, again, that you would do in the summertime.
Right.
Right, okay. And then what do you think about mulching? Would you think that would be an option?
It would be an option, but it's not going to totally get rid of the spores in the soil.
Right.
But it would cover up the soil where the water splashes up on the leaves and spreads the spores onto the plant.
Exactly right. All right, so there you have it, Captain Pegs 07, all right? You know, practice good rotation, good sanitation. You should be just fine. All right, here's our next viewer email. My 8-year-old river birch tree started losing its leaves in June and is completely leafless as of October the 1st. The leaves have yellow, red, black splotches on them. Is there something I could do to correct this problem for next year? And this is from Donna right here in Memphis. So, Lee, the leaves have started dropping off in June. It's totally leafless now. Would you be concerned about that?
I'd be concerned, but it's probably caused from environmental situation that we've had all this rain and moisture during the summer.
Right.
The tree's not dead, it's just lost its leaves from the disease from the environmental situation.
Right. And we're thinking for the most part the tree is already, taking up a lot of those reserves that it needs for next year anyway, so it may not be that big of a deal.
Correct.
And my question, Ms. Dunn, is this. I would love to see those yellow, red, and black splotches on the leaves because, just kind of give us a little idea what that may be. Because I do know that river birches actually have a lot of fungal leaf diseases. True. And they also have problems with aphids as well, which could cause maybe some of those colors that she pointed out, but it would be good if we had a picture so we could see that.
I always need a picture to be able to identify positively what's the problem.
But you think for the most part it's not going to be a big problem?
It should not be a big problem. Okay. Hopefully our environment situation will be different next year and the tree will be able to hold its leaves for longer.
Okay, so there you have it, Ms. Donna. All right, here's our next viewer email. Wild parsnip has taken over my pasture. How do I get rid of it and keep it from coming back? It's a grazing pasture, so I don't want to hurt the Bermuda. Is there something I can spray every year to kill wild parsnip and everything but the Bermuda? And this is from Billy. So this is Mr. Billy, Michigan City, Mississippi. So thank you for the question. So here again, wild parsnip, is there something I can spray every year to kill it, but not kill the Bermuda? But first, are we sure that it's wild parsnip?
Right. We want to get it positively identified first before we make that assumption that it's not something else.
Right. Yeah, we definitely need a picture there, Mr. Billy, just to make sure, because there's some other things that come to mind for me, Queen Anne's lace, wild carrot, and some others. We do know those are broadleaf weeds, that biennial weeds for the most part. But at this point in time, I know he's asking about something to spray, but at this point in time, this late in the year, I would just mow it.
Correct.
I mean, when you think so, get out the bush hog and just mow it down. And then I know that you can come back, in the winter with a burn down. Right. And that burn down could be, glyphosate product or something like that. But I would check with my local extension agent there because they may have a plan for you down in Mississippi that can help you out with your grazing pasture and with this weed as well. But that's what I would do. I just mow it down at this point.
At this point, definitely don't want to go to seed, so mow it down. Don't let the seed mature.
Right. Mow it down, get more information from your local extension agent. And I think that should get you, Mr. Billy, all right? Thank you for the question. Here's our next viewer email. What are these red bumps on this oak branch? Is this some kind of fungal disease? And this is from Judd. As you can see, they're real distinct red bumps. Endorthia canker is what that is, okay? And you usually have that on dead branches. So branches that are dead or that have been severely shaded out, you'll actually see this. So it pretty much lets you know that the tree is not in good health.
Right.
Right. So it's an indicator of poor health for that tree. Again, it is a fungus. You see it on dead branches. You actually see it on branches too that have been pruned improperly. Okay. It is a canker. So what you could do is just cut it out.
That should eliminate that situation.
You eliminate it, you cut it out, you'd be just fine. right? But it is a fungus. Again, real distinct red bumps on it, not scales.
Right.
You know, I can see what somebody could think, you know, maybe scales or something else. But again, when you see it, it just means that that tree is not in the best health.
Correct.
So there you have it, Mr. John. Might need to get a certified arborist or somebody like that to come out and take a look at it just to make sure the tree is not a hazard, you know, for you. And I think that should do it. So Scott, I should leave it out of time. Thanks for being here today. Remember, we love to hear from you. Send us an email or letter. The email address is familyplots@wkno.org, and the mailing address is Family Plot 7151 Cherry Farms Road, Cordova, Tennessee 38016. Or you can go online to familyplotgarden.com. That's all we have time for today. Need to see how to mix up chemicals or diagnose a plant disease? Go to familyplotgarden.com. We have videos on those topics, along with one that shows how to build a hydroponic system you saw today. I'm Chris Cooper. Be sure to join us next week for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.